get an incredible dividend when you're no longer fighting against yourself, right? So what's interesting is, I go through a process in martial arts that fuses my system. We say that the body works as one unified chi, which means that my belly, my heart, my head, they're all focused on the same page. And they work together in a natural harmony. You don't need to micromanage your thyroid gland, okay? You also don't need to micromanage your heart and your belly. But when we get trained in a certain way where the brain tries to do everything, that can prevent us from shutting that off. And sometimes you put down the hammer to pick up the saw, put down the saw to pick up the square, these kind of things. But we can get hammered into a groove. So the question becomes, well, if I'm trying to perceive truth, what are the things that are going to get in the way of my truth? My history, right? Because humans, they generalize, they delete, they distort. If you fall off of a rocking chair when you're a child and it hurts bad enough, when you go into a room with a rocking chair as an adult, you're going to go into a subliminal state of anxiety because your experience tends to generalize that. I don't know about those things, right? So we carry that in and we filter the moment through all of those perceptions. But when I'm fighting, what do I want the content of my consciousness to be? It certainly doesn't want to be a memory of the last bad ass whooping I ever got, right? Which is one of the things that can arise in that moment. You can go into a heavy visualization situation that will not further, okay? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, in fact, right? I can become overpowered with the desire to destroy my opponent. I had a student who came to me, and he was very proud of being a champion in all northern Italy. And he said, here was his method. He said he would face his opponent, and he would imagine that his opponent had done some unspeakable act to his girlfriend. And then he would just lose it. Right? Well, that's what we call the animal level of martial arts, or what one of my teachers called firing the glands. Right? Well, when he fought one of my students, it didn't work out so well because we don't work that way, right? So he's fighting my student, he's got a big smile on his face, right? And he'd come rushing in and my student would throw him on the ground. He'd get back up and go, let's not do takedowns anymore, right? And my student would go, okay. And then he'd come in like a crazy wild person, he'd end up on the ground again, right? And this went on for a while until the more angry he got, the bigger the smile on my student's face gets, right? He's doing very little, he's beating himself because this is a system that, yeah, he was a champion, but I don't know, this is the way we want to train ourselves. This is not the way the dough wants to manifest. We want to have a higher level. The same teacher would say you have animal level martial arts, you have human level martial arts, and you have sage level martial arts. We can be strong, we can have a lot of qigong, we can have a lot of self-defense, right? The fago. We can have all that going and still not have much Dao. We still might not have much spiritual progress, right? If we don't have that qi that transmutes to shen component. Okay? So the idea is we are given, and I don't want to take forever here, but I want to give you guys, what's the takeaway? We're given a model often that says that the real challenge to getting to truth, the real challenge to understanding something is getting running the right software on it. If I run the right program, I'm going to get the right answer out, right? And I guess part of the point of martial arts is that you need to really develop the means of perception. You need to understand how your perception is colored and filtered by your own experience. And this is why, the Buddha, he said enlightenment is a turning around in the deep seat of consciousness. It's not trying to find the truth out there, it's trying to clean up my windshield well enough that I can actually not just understand truth, not just perceive it and understand it, but I want to love truth, right? When one of the old Chinese texts, when Chuang Tzu talks about it, he's talking about all the different schools, and he says when Lao Tzu heard the teachings of the Tao, he heard the teachings and he loved them, right? Which is very different than saying, well, I think this makes sense rationally. No, there's something there. Humans have an instinct to love truth, and it's critical and it's important. And if you don't develop that like you develop your brain, you can commit ravages. Okay? So we have this component, this meter that is the heart center that checks things out, and it tells me this has a lot to do with certain aspects of intuition. My belly center also has a lot of aspects to do with intuition. And if my brain doesn't know how to listen to my heart and my belly, then I'm not going to work like one unified machine, right? So there's a process to that. There's a melting through. Lao Tzu says that ordinary learning is day-by-day accumulation. But learning in the Tao is day-by-day decrease. And that's what we're talking about, decreasing. All of the obscurations, all of the things that we bring with us. And the Buddhists, they love to go into this. They say, well, if you think you're doing it, let's see, what is this you? Right? Well, when we look at that experience of here I am in the martial moment, and I have to perceive truth, what I want the state of my consciousness to be is what? Completely open, no judgment, no predication, no commentary, just presence to it. And the fact that I may get my butt kicked can help bring me to that moment. It can really help bring that into reality. So sometimes when you're just sitting in the monastery, breathing, you go off to different places. Nothing brings you to here now. That's why they send the guy around with a stick to wake you up, right? Nothing brings you here now is that reptile brain threat, right? So the idea is I have to be functioning on all these centers. Now the martial encounter, as I said, it's a metaphor. The Tao that can be walked is not the true Tao. Why? Because you have your Tao that you have to walk, and you have your Tao that you have to walk. The big Tao shines through them all. In the way that we say the pre-birth methods, the pre-birth energies shine through the post-birth. The Tao shines through the 10,000 things. They're not different. It's just that we don't see the Tao through the 10,000 things usually. So the idea is I can alter my means of perception, and that as I purify that means, I pull myself out of it. You know, Lao Tzu says, when Lao Tzu is quoting the ancients, okay, Lao Tzu quoting the ancients, he says, what we value and what we fear is within ourself. And then he explains that. He says, if we didn't have a self, we wouldn't have the valuing and the fearing. And when we're in that moment, facing the martial truth, we don't want to have an I that's there, because it's going to just bring that past. It's just going to bring attachment. It's just going to bring fear. It's just going to bring all this history with it. I want to be clear and clean in that moment. So when I say what, the only thing that fills my consciousness is what is. And that's it. And then I can trust that my other centers will know what to do. They'll know how to move with that. And that's what we call time body. This is another topic. But there's a process there. And what I maintain is that when you go through this process, you solve it in the martial setting, but this capacity then you can apply everywhere. And if you just started out trying to apply it everywhere, it would be too slippery. There would be too many variations to establish a path. So that's why traditionally we say, no, just flower arranging. We're going to get it all here in flower arranging. Or no, it's just going to be in how you pull out the sword. Right? Or no, it's just going to be So there is this idea that I want to be completely present to what is. And this is where we come around on the backside to morality.